Hey, welcome back to the sculpture, guys. We will be doing some more details. Now that I've established the proportion of the sculpture, I want to go ahead and start putting some of the details. Not a lot of details, I just want to essentially draw. Using my tools, I'm going to be drawing in. I noticed that the left thigh was a little bit too thin, so I'm massing it in. I need to add just a little bit more clay. Working with terracotta is really great, especially when it's at this consistency and it's not dried out. It's probably my favorite type of clay. Wooden tools are really good for water-based clay, and I like to use them a lot, especially to add clay. Using calipers, take the midpoint of your sculpture. This gives you a good reference. It's never exact because if you're measuring from 2D to 3D, it's not going to be exact. Well, guys, I'm relatively happy with the proportions. I think I can build it from here. Of course, the head is a little bit smaller, and that's a good thing because I can mass it in a little bit more later. There are some problems. Remember when I was putting the base, some of the clay didn't adhere properly over here. Look for it because I made it, it got a little bit drier. So right over here, there was a hairline fracture coming in there. Look around, make sure there's no splits because this has dried over the weekend. I didn't work on it Saturday or Sunday, so today is going to be a good day to continue working on it, and we're going to start working on the figure, adding some more good details, and start building it out. The proportion is still not there, but that's fine. We're just going to keep working. So I wanted to establish what the head looks like. So in this session, I'm going to concentrate just a little bit more on the head. I'm not trying to make a beautiful face just yet, but I wanted to mass in some of the features. I also noticed that my head is a little bit too small. So this is one of the problems with doing details too soon, is that when you start doing details too soon, you are less inclined to adjust things when it comes to the larger proportions. So be very careful. So make sure that the head is relatively the same size before you start to make the little smaller details. But for me, I just wanted to get the head in there because I do want some sort of expression. So our model is got a very round face. Usually I like to make more chiseled faces with high cheekbones, but she has a very kind of almost chubby like face, almost looks very angelic. So I'm going to stay a little bit more truer to her likeness than I am in my definition of beauty, because she has a very interesting face. And of course, I got this pose from postspace.com, really good reference website for artists. And I'm starting to put the collarbones, the clavicle, and working on the deltoid. The bony landmark in the shoulders is called the acromion process. Very important to take measurements from there. And of course, the head just keeps falling down because it's suspended by a tiny little neck. And there is no armature in the sculpture, so it constantly keeps falling down because of gravity and the wetness of the clay. One of the things you can do is to dry out the clay a little bit if it keeps falling down on you. But one of the things I do is put a stick holding the head to the body. That usually lets the head suspend a little bit better. Those shish kebab sort of sticks. The downside is that you create like a hollow, and then afterwards you definitely have to scoop the inside really well, because if you leave that hole, that gap in there, the clay is going to completely explode in the kiln. So be careful with that, but most of the time if you are just working with wet clay, you'll never have an issue. So at this point I'm removing a little bit of the cheeks here because she has more of a slant to her hips, and instead of pushing the hips, I decided just to kind of build out that left cheek. And now I am measuring the thighs. My lower legs are a little bit too short because I haven't added the foot, because once I add the foot, it tends to dry because it's so far off the platform. Same thing with the head and all of these extremities. They actually dry much faster than the middle of the figure. But I like the consistency of the clay right now. It's nice and wet. It almost feels very virtuoso to sculpt in this form. And the way I'm using my tools, you see I'm using the back side of my tools to round out the form. You want to do that. And even like if I want to round the thigh, I'll just take that tool and push the clay. So I'm not really using the scraping tool very much. I do like the way it looks, even with the marks and all of that. So I'm not trying to create an impressionistic sort of sculpture, but I do like the look of the unfinished sculpture. But we will try and take this to a higher degree of finish. But now it's all about establishing a gesture and proportions and doing little details, but not too many. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.